Welcome everyone to Buddhist Center. So fortunate that we're here this evening and get to talk about Lama Tsongkhapa's foundation of all good qualities, get to talk about all of the stages of the path that are necessary for us to engage in if we want to have permanent happiness that just is always there, meaning that it doesn't end. It's a type of impermanent phenomena, but it's an impermanent phenomena that won't end. Because once we achieve the state of Buddhahood, it will have a beginning but won't have an end. And the state of Buddhahood ensures us that we never have to suffer again and that we only experience infinite happiness over and over and over again and never experience anything but that. And we become the most reliable guides in the universe. And that's really what's so amazing about it. We not only fulfill all of our own needs, but we fulfill all sentient beings' needs the moment that we become enlightened, because all sentient beings need, all people like me need, are Buddhas to show us exactly what we need to do to end the awful states of suffering that we have to endure over and over and over again. And, be able to achieve the state of perfect happiness that the Buddha has, that doesn't have any kind of ceiling on it in relation to the most highest amount of happiness that one can achieve. So before we get started talking about all of those stages of the path, I want to, set a motivation. Since this is a Mahayana teaching and we all want to become Buddhas, we know that we become Buddhas in dependence upon other sentient beings, in dependence upon generating a mind that cherishes others more than ourselves, in dependence upon learning how to become more and more reliable in terms of how we would go about helping others. And in our lives, we try to help others, but we have so many handicaps because of all of the afflictions that we have and the inappropriate attention that we have placed on all the objects around us because of the fact that we grasp at them as being inherently existent. But when those veils of grasping are removed and those veils of the appearance of inherent existence are removed, we are able to truly help all sentient beings in an unimpeded way, in a way that doesn't have that handicap that we currently have, that sees things incorrectly right from the beginning of our concepts around everything that we perceive in relation to ourselves and other phenomena than ourselves. So ourselves, other persons, and other phenomena that aren't persons. All of these things we incorrectly perceive, and that incorrect perception makes us unreliable. And that incorrect perception isn't just the way that we think about the things that we see, it's embedded in the way that we actually see things. So it reinforces over and over and over again in our minds this idea that things have this status that they don't actually have. And this idea that they have a status that they don't actually have is what is our Achilles heel that causes us then to engage in, because of our mind becomes so screwed up around items and ourselves, because of this idea that they have a concrete kind of type of functionality, a concrete aspect about themselves that makes them worthy of a value or devalue. Because of that, because of this adherence to this improper idea that comes about through our minds thinking and through our actual sensory perception, we then have all of this thinking that goes around the way of thinking that starts from a wrong place, and we're not able to then know what to really do for those around us. And we do the best that we can, and we have to continue to try to do the best that we can to help others around us, but know that our main goal is to achieve the state of Buddhahood, and whatever we have to do is what we should do, because of the fact that our main goal in life, day and night, is to be free from suffering and to have happiness, as much happiness as possible. It's just the problem is we never go about it the correct way because we're operating from a principle that's incorrect. So because it's a Mahayana teaching and because we're trying to lay these prints in our mind that we want to become the most reliable guide in the universe, and we want to be able to help all sentient beings in an unimpeded way, help all sentient beings in a way that we would know exactly what they need at that moment. We know that what we need is the kind of medicine to cure all of our ailments of our mind. What we need is something that would counteract this thinking that causes me to suffer day and night. If I'm in cyclic existence, I suffer. I have at least the pervasive compounded suffering, no matter where I am in cyclic existence. And this means that I'll be thrust beyond my control into a state of aggregates, into a state of contaminated aggregates because of karma, contaminated karmas, afflictions, and the corresponding seeds. So because I have these things within my mind that I haven't placed an antidote against, I haven't put an opponent to, these things in my mind will give rise to samsara over and over and over again. And I will turn in samsara like buckets on a water wheel, as Chandrakirti says, because I grasp at the I as being inherently existent. Until I put a counteracting force, until I put an opponent against this misunderstanding, I will continue to turn in cyclic existence. And until I learn what this thing is that makes me turn in cyclic existence and understand all the sufferings of cyclic existence, I won't really know what your ailments are and how to help you. And I won't really be motivated to help you if I'm not motivated to help myself, because to me, I'm the most important person in the universe. And if I haven't decided that I deserve something, I certainly won't decide that you deserve the kind of help that the Buddhas give. So we're trying to lay these tracks in our mind to be more like Buddhas, to be more like beings who put others' needs before their own, who cherish others more than themselves, beings who have concluded that the way to having the most infinite happiness that one can have is cherishing others more than oneself, and coming to the conclusion that you must do it, and coming to the conclusion that this must do it will only work if you're a Buddha. So the way that we become a Buddha is by familiarizing our minds more and more and more with Buddha-like thinking. And what a Buddha does day and night is figure out how to get sentient beings to understand the truth of suchness. So let's imagine we bring all sentient beings here, hell, hungry ghosts, animal, human, demigods, gods, all beings in the universe, all sentient beings here, any being that has an afflictive obstruction or an obstruction to omniscience. Imagine that we're bringing them here and we're calling them here, and that the teaching is being given in their own individual languages and to their own individual aptitudes, so that they can then transform their own individual minds. Because we know that the Buddhas can't wash the negativities with water, remove miseries with their hands, transfer realizations. They teach the truth of suchness, and then beings then are liberated in dependence upon that teaching that they then put into practice. And we recognize, and we hopefully recognize, that we are ill, and that the medicine that the Buddha is giving us, like a doctor, is what we need to take in order to be freed from all of our suffering. So let's imagine that we're now inviting all sentient beings to be able to hear the nectar of the Dharma, hear what we're going to hear, but hear it in their own individual ways, so that they can move closer to the abandonment of the self-grasping ignorance and the subtle self-cherishing attitude, so that they can achieve the state that we're here to try to achieve. And the only way that we'll achieve it is if we share it. So in the language of gods, nagas, and yakshas, in the language of demons and of humans too, and however many kinds of speech there may be, I shall proclaim the Dharma in the language of all. So tonight, we want to do something a little different. Now that all sentient beings are here, I'd like to read something to set the proper motivation. It's from Janja Rilpi Dorje's beautiful ornament of Mount Meru. It's come out a few years ago. It's by Donald Lopez, translated by Donald Lopez, and it's Janja Rilpi Dorje's exposition of the tenet systems. So we have Goncho Jimmy Wombo's tenet systems text that we study in the Nalanda program, and a lot of people study Cutting Through Appearances, which is a smaller explanation of the tenets. This is not quite as large as Jayan Sheba's explanation of the tenets, because that's just humongous. But this is a medium level explanation of the tenets, and it has a beautiful introduction that Professor Lopez has put in verse. So I thought, as I was reading it, I thought this would be wonderful once we assemble all sentient beings here to be our guests in their own individual languages, that we all might share in this nectar of Dharma into our ears from Janja Rilpi Dorje. And Janja Rilpi Dorje also wrote Remembering Mama, or Identifying Mother, the Song of Spiritual Experience. So the mother text that I've read before, and that Geshe Dorje Damdu is actually teaching tomorrow, Saturday, and Sunday, was written also by Janja Rupi Dorje. So yes, Geshe Dorje Damdu is for an Australian group. It starts at 4:45 a.m. tomorrow morning for 2 hours, the same time start, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, teaching Janja Rupi Dorje's mother, Identifying Mother. It's translated Remembering Mother, Identifying Mother, Song of Spiritual Experience. So for 3 days, he'll be teaching that incredible text. So this text is by the same author as Remembering Mother, Identifying Mother, Janja Rupi Dorje, but this text is about the tenet systems. And I just love the way that he writes, and many, many, many scholars use this text to get a little more of an understanding of what Goncho Jimmy Wombo's presentation of tenets was, because there's a lot more meat on the bones in this text, but it's not quite as expansive as Jayan Sheba's great exposition of tenets that not only is huge, but it's really hard to understand. So this is written quite well. And it's in the style, as you'll see, that I really appreciate, the direct, straightforward style that a lot of these writers have, like the 7th Dalai Lama, 5th Dalai Lama, and so forth. So let's just think that, set our motivation that we're really going to abandon the faults of the 3 pots right now and listen to this introduction and let it seep into our minds, because we're here to try to learn, as Gontan Dembe Drome says, how we would go about having every moment of our lives have a moment that we're placing a positive, virtuous imprint in it. So this is what our goal is, to try to get to this point where this is how we just operate. So let's try to, at least when we're in a teaching, operate in this manner so we're not distracted, so we aren't losing information as it's coming in because we're not listening thoroughly, or maybe we're not listening at all and our ears are closed off and it's not coming in at all, or we've come in with all of these other ideas that are contaminating what the teacher's saying, and it's just mixing it all up and not allowing for you. And this is what the important part is. It's for you to be able to have something to analyze that's accurate. The wisdom arisen from hearing is just part. Then you have to analyze the stuff that you've heard. And if you haven't heard it correctly, and it's mixed up with stuff that you're already thinking about, when you carry what you think you've learned over to your analysis, it's partly what you've already thinking mixed in with it. And it's not going to have the effect because there's something wrong or missing in it. So this is why it's so important to hear these teachings and hear them in the best way we possibly can, so that we can then apply them in our meditation, in our analysis, when we start to analyze and look at it, from every angle possible, all of these topics from every angle possible. We want to make sure that the thing in the center that we're looking at from every angle possible is actually what was taught. And it's a huge problem that I know I've had in the past, where you're in a teaching and you're not 100% tuned in. And then the next day you get on the cushion. What was it? Well, I think it was kind of like this. And then it starts. And then who knows? Maybe it's okay, but who knows how many wasted moments are created because of not listening properly. So this is what it's all about. This is why Khenso Geshe Wandak before class talked about the faults of the 3 pots over and over and over again. Why the Lamrim teachings have the faults of the 3 pots over and over and over again presented. It's upstairs on the table next to the bed. Why they have these over and over again presented. It's because if you don't hear this stuff correctly, you won't have anything to practice with. And if you're missing any part of what you personally need, then you won't be able to fulfill your goal, because your goal is to achieve happiness and a freedom from suffering. And if you don't have all the ingredients to make that happen, you're kind of wasting your time in a sense if you're looking for things to happen in this life. Yeah, you're leaving imprints that are coming in and leaving imprints, and then hopefully they'll connect to something later. But if you're interested in doing something about your problem now, it's indispensable. It's of utmost importance that you listen to the teaching in a clear way. So with that in mind, in the deep introduction arranged in verse, this is such a beautiful text. It's so incredible. And Professor Genla Jeffrey Hopkins was so happy that Donald Lopez translated this. He mentioned it so many times and said, you must read this book. And anyone who's interested in tenets, interested in the Vaibhashika, Sautrantika, Chittamantra, Madhyamaka systems, and differentiating them, and understanding what the staircase to the final view of emptiness looks like. Anybody who wants to know what that is, this book is very helpful. Very, very helpful. It's quite large, not as large as it could be, but it's quite large. But never be satisfied with partial instructions. Never think that, oh, I'm not someone who can kind of conquer these larger amounts of information, because you're going to have to conquer these larger amounts of information sooner or later if you want to become a Buddha. There's no quick little short paragraph instruction that you're going to be able to, after beginningless time, since beginningless time, you've gotten everything wrong, and someone's just going to give you a paragraph and it's going to make everything right. You're going to have to untangle this exaggerated mess within your mind. It's going to take some untangling. And that untangling is a possible process if you engage in the process. So in the deep canyon of existence, with its 100 million hardships, it is the nature of most of us to have a worried mind. What methods liberates us from this? What is not the method? To ponder this again and again is the best deed we can do. The mere ritual of filling our belly, nursing conceit in our heart, straining with effort, how are we different from cattle? If this is so, I take joy in explaining this method for distinguishing what is and not the path. Through relying on knowing as it is and without error the path of perfect reasoning. In the past, when the lotus grove of 10 million supreme scholars blossomed in the belly of the daughter of the earth, fortunate ones spreading like a swarm of bees were sated by the nectar of good explanation in their presence. Now times have changed. The roar of angry laughter of the demons of degenerate deeds strikes fear in the hearts of the thoughtful. Therefore, the waters of the 8 branches of excellent explanation are cascading toward contamination by the sewage of error through the faults of those with meager minds. As long as those with minds twisted by bias finds things they do not agree with, they lose their chance for faith in even a single statement of the Supreme Seer. Thus, because it is rare to properly distinguish what is real from what is counterfeit, even the excellent ones in a forest hermitage are content to live humbly. Therefore, I have no hope to benefit others here. I am just trying to familiarize myself with the good explanations. If there are any endowed with discernment who wish to create in their hearts not just mere words, but faith drawn from pure reasoning in our teacher and his teachings, listen to this method. This teacher of ours proclaims with the roar of a lion the news of dependent arising. He is known as the Lord of Sages. To those seeking liberation, the protector reveals the straight path to peace, explained through the path of perfect reasoning, making it something we directly perceive. Where and how we are tormented by suffering, the cause by which we are tormented in that way, how there is a state of liberation from that, and the method by which we are liberated from it. We're so fortunate to have this teaching, to have the 3 turnings of the wheel of Dharma presented to us, to know exactly how we are tormented by suffering, the cause by which we are tormented in that way, and how there is a state of liberation from that. It's so clearly laid out. And we'll get into the foundation of all good qualities in a moment, but I just wanted to read that and allow you to hear the nectar of these words from Janjai Rilpe Dorje. That's only part of the beginning. I'll read more of it as time goes on, but it gets more into the tenets and so forth. as it goes on, but for sure, I will read more of it in time. So I just wanted to start there with that. And now, imagine that you and all sentient beings invite the merit field here. So we've set our motivation. We want to be liberated from cyclic existence. We want to achieve complete enlightenment. We know this is a Mahayana teaching. We know that we've invited all sentient beings here so that they can hear how to become a Buddha. Now let's invite the merit field here, which are the objects of our refuge, these beings that show us exactly how to get what we want. We connect with these beings and seek their blessings so that we continue in all of our lives to be connected to these perfect beings who teach us the stages of the path of sutra and tantra that lead us to the final completion. So get into the 7-point Vairocana posture that allows us to achieve the states of pliancy in the most conducive manner. It says in the Lamrim Chemo, it says that it inspires others. It's a very specific posture that allows us to sit for long periods of time. It aligns everything in the way that makes a physical basis of support the most conducive way it can possibly be to having our minds be able to be clear. And then our minds, of course, are separate from our bodies, but our bodies and our minds have quite a connection, as we know. So that if we can then make our bodies the most conducive kind of way they can be, so that they can connect with our mind in the best way for our mind to be able to meditate, then we're getting somewhere, because it's our mind that does the meditation. It's our mind that transforms. It's our mind that goes from lifetime to lifetime. It's our mind that's getting things wrong over and over and over again. It's our mind that has the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience. These things are adventitious. These are stains that can be removed, but they are right now part of our mind, but they aren't part of our mind's nature. And that's what gives us the chance. Because if they're not part of our mind's nature, and our mind is in the nature of clear light and unsullied, our mind is just merely a clear and knowing agent. Our mind isn't a clear and knowing sullied agent. It's a clear and knowing agent. It just clearly knows, illuminates, and clearly reflects and knows what it's presented with. And our imprints are what shows our mind, like a projector onto a screen, what our experience is to know. What is it that we know? And if we figure out how to make that screen be only good things that are coming from our mind to know, then since our mind's clear and knowing, it'll just clearly know good things. It's that simple. Our mind doesn't have to be so disturbed. Like Janjay Rilpi Dorje says, it starts out with the problem. I mean, it says it right here. In the deep canyon of existence, with its 100 million hardships, it is the nature of most of us to have a worried mind. Most of us. Why only most of us? Because it's not the nature of the mind to worry. It's just the nature of my mind to worry. Because right now, and when we say nature, it means like that's how my mind operates now. But it's not its final nature. It's not within it something that can't be separated. But because we don't know that, we just think this is the way it is. We have to suffer. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. This is the nature of the way things are at the final place. But that's not the case. It's how your day is going. It's not how Buddha's day is going. It's how your day is going. It's not how a first ground bodhisattva's day is going. They're moving from joy to joy. They're able to experience what you would consider the most amount of torture in the world. And on the third bodhisattva ground, that enhances their compassion and brings them more joy to help. They're not worried. So it's not that a mind has to be worried. It's just our mind's worried. So if a worried mind is a resultant state, then it's something that has a cause. And if an unworried mind is a resultant state, it's something that has a procedure to get to it. And it's just we haven't done the procedure. We haven't engaged in what it would take to not have a worried mind. with its 100 million hardships. 100 million hardships, but there are beings who don't have any hardships or any worried mind. What method liberates us from this? What isn't the method? This is what we all want to know, right? How can I be happy? What's the method? What isn't the method? What I've been doing isn't the method, because I don't go from bliss to bliss to bliss to bliss. I don't have a permanent freedom from suffering. I have suffering all the time. So whatever method I've been doing up till now hasn't been working. This is what we need to ponder again and again and again. And that's the best deed we can do. That's the best thing we can do for ourselves. That's how we could really say we deserve better. By actually figuring out how to get what we want. To figure out exactly what it is to make a worried mind stop worrying. And to make the 100 million hardships no longer be. You can have 100 million hardships and then achieve the state of nirvana, and you never, ever, ever have one again. You have countless hardships up until that day and never have one again. Never again. Abiding nirvana, non-abiding nirvana, either one. Never, ever have a worried mind again. Never, ever have these 100 million hardships again. And you'll, if you're a Buddha, know exactly what the method is to make everyone be able to never have a worried mind again. Wow. Imagine if you had that recipe. Think about the people that you love. You don't ever want to have even like a pinprick. Imagine if you had that recipe for them. They don't ever have to have a worried mind again. This is what Buddhism brings for us. We talk in these like high-end philosophical terms, but does your mind ever worry? Do you like that? Does your mind always worry? No. Well, then if it doesn't always worry, it means that your mind isn't just a worrying mind. If it only worried day and night, if there was never any, oh, this is good. If it only worried day and night and there was no way out of it, it was just one of those phenomena things, that impermanent phenomena that would never end. It would never end. But you see it in your own personal life, ending and coming and ending and coming, and happiness coming and ending. Not the good happiness we're looking for, a Buddhahood or a liberating kind of one, but you see the kinds of stuff that you can relate to in your life to say, hey, I know what happiness is. I know what suffering is. And you've had higher states of suffering and higher states of happiness. And none of them stuck around. None of them stuck around. So they're not fixed, but they could be more fixed. But what if there was nothing that could ever make it worried again? If there was nothing, if you want chocolate milk, but you don't have chocolate, you'll never get chocolate milk. You can have 100 million cows, brown cows, black and white cows. You can just have nothing but cows all over the earth. But if you don't have the chocolate, you'll never get chocolate milk. Never. Likewise, if you don't have the thing that makes your mind worry in the ingredients in your mind, you'll never have worried mind. Just think about cause and effect. How does stuff arise? Well, this, and this, and this, and then you have a risal. You put a seed in, you get some water, you put the lights, and then you have a sprout. Well, what if there's no seed? You get a mango? What if there's no dirt? What if there's none of the things that can make that happen? It doesn't happen. Likewise, if there's none of the things in our mind that cause it to worry, that cause the inappropriate attention to make it worry, then it won't worry. It's the self-grasping ignorance that gives rise to this inappropriate ideas, that gives rise to, that kind of sits alongside this self-cherishing attitude that sees that the root to our happiness is to just destroy, but not harm. Love and compassion is the way to our happiness. But we don't really know that. We know it a little when we get to Buddhism, but we don't really know it. But the more we study, the more we reflect, the more we study these texts, we start to know it. And we start to see that there's nothing else that we can do except this. There's nothing else to do, because there's nothing that we try to do in life except be happy and be free from suffering. Like Geshe Dorje Damdu says, well, what's the meaning of life? Well, I want to get a good job. Everything that you answer, it's to try to be happier and free from suffering. Everything. So why not really give it a go? Why not really create chocolate milk with chocolate and milk if you want chocolate milk? Don't sit around and say there's cows everywhere. I don't know why I don't have any chocolate milk. Go find some chocolate. You got cows. You have a mind. You've just got to add some things and subtract some things. You've just got to add and subtract. You've got to subtract the things that cause you to have a worried mind and add the things that make you have only bliss. That's it. It's that simple. And when we break it down to make it that simple, it says, well, okay, what do I have to do? So that's what we'll talk about more tonight. So now just imagine that the merit field is arranging in the space in front of you. And just really rejoice in the fact that we have all of these teachings and we have access to all of this incredible information that is really what we need. These are really the ingredients that we need in order to produce the Buddhahood, not chocolate milk. We want to produce Buddhahood. So what do we need to put into our mind? What do we need to mix with our mind? Clean out from our mind, distill. What do we need to mix? What do we need to distill in order to arrive at that place? So now the way that we learn it is in dependence upon the great text and the great masters and our gurus. The foundation of everything good is our teacher. So now imagine that all of those enlightened beings begin to fill in the space in front of you. You have all sentient beings with you in the seven-point Vairocana posture. Imagine that they're all just inspired and they're all sentient beings just like you are feeling this just intense love and compassion that's filling the room, because the space in front of you is filling with holy beings who only care about your needs, only care about you becoming the happiest person that can be, because Buddha's a person, Buddha Shakyamuni, happiest person you can be, and a person that never suffers again. That's all these holy beings care about. So as they form in the room, imagine they're right here with you, and you can just imagine them right in the space in front of you. And imagine they're just looking into your eyes with such immense loving kindness. They care about you so much. And imagine that they've all just come here to then look into our eyes and know that we're all the beings who want to be free from suffering, all these sentient beings. And imagine that they're calculating in their omniscient ways exactly what it is that's needed at that very moment for each and every one of us. This is what the Buddhas are spontaneously doing. They're sending bodies, they're sending all of these different forms of help to us in order to get us to ripen our own minds. So fortunate they do this. Imagine Buddha Shakyamuni in the space in front of us. Imagine His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Chen Rezig right here on our earth. Imagining Kensar Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, inseparable from Aryatara, right here in the space in front of us. Imagining all the holy lamas, imagining Geshe Lobsang Gompo and Kensar Lobsang Gyatso, imagining Dema Lotra Rinpoche, imagining Geshe Dorje Damdu sitting on a firm throne, and Umzala Aga sitting on a firm throne. Jeffrey Hopkins, who is so kind to all of us. Imagine all these holy beings in the space in front of you, the beings of the extensive deeds lineage passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni to Lord Maitreya and Asanga and Basu Bandhu and Dignaga and Dharmakirti and Vamuktasena and Haribhadra and Shakyaprabha and Gunaprabha and Lama Sanlingpa and Lord Atisha and Drontompa. Imagine them all right there, passing down this extensive deeds lineage, passing down the instructions on the grounds and paths and so forth, the 7-point cause and effect instruction for realizing the mind that aspires to enlightenment, that Kensar Geshe Wandak was so clear about and taught us so many times how to realize the beautiful mind that aspires to enlightenment by that incredible teaching passed down from Maitreya to Asanga. We're so fortunate that Asanga sat in that cave for so long, for 12 years, to try to meet with Maitreya, and then eventually did because of the karmic obscurations to seeing the future Buddha were removed, and he was able to get all of these instructions that we now benefit from. We're so fortunate these beings put in the time and effort that was necessary in order to evolve their own minds, because now we reap the benefits of them evolving. We know that as soon as someone becomes a Buddha, they fulfill all of their needs and everyone's needs. And these beings have put in so much effort for us. We're so fortunate. The beings from the profound view lineage passed down from Buddha Shakyamuni and Manjushri and Nagarjuna and Buddha Palita and Arya Deva and Chandrakirti and Shanti Deva, and imagining Baba Vega and Chandrarashita and Kamala Shila, Lama Salimpa, Lord Atisha, imagining Drone Tompa there, right there in the space in front of us. All these holy beings are all trickle down into the Lamrim teachings. All of their teachings trickle down into these Lamrim teachings. All of these names we've said we're influenced by, whether we know it or not. The lineage of blessings passed down from Vajradhara to Saraha and Matripa, Tilopa, Naropa, Jetsun Marpa, the Lotsawa Marpa and Jetsun Milarepa, Jagam Popa. These holy beings are right here with us, imagining Drontompa passing down the Lamrim lineage to all the three old Kadampa lineages. Imagining the holy beings of the Tibetan Buddhist lineages are in the space in front of us. Imagining the Nyingma lineage, imagining Padmasambhava and Longchenpa and Mipam are here right in the space in front of us, teaching us the great completeness. Imagine they're here just expounding those teachings that we can understand if we understand the Prasangika view, and we can truly know how to involve every moment in the nature of reality. And those teachings passed down from the Sakya tradition, Satya Konganipo, Sakya Randawa, Sakya Pandita, all these incredible treasuries of instructions. We're so fortunate, grounds and results. We're so fortunate to have these incredible teachings, the beings of the Kaju lineage, Jagam Popa, imagining they're all in space in front of us, all of the Karmapas, all of these holy beings in the space in front of us, imagining Lama Tsongkhapa, the holder of the Galupa lineage, who combined all the three old Kadampa lineages. Imagine he's right here in the space in front of us with Kirchubje and Jelsubje, Panchen Sonandrapa, Basuchuji Jetson, Janja Rupi Dorje, Gonchu Jimmy Wampo, Jayan Sheba, Purbajok, Jetsumpo, all these seventh Dalai Lama, all these holy beings, fifth Dalai Lama, all these holy beings are here in the space in front of us. Imagining the highest Yoga Tantra deities, Performance Tantra deities, and Action Tantra deities, all of the 35 Buddhas, all of the protector deities. Imagine they're here just in the space in front of us. We're so fortunate that we have these beings that can connect with us, that have taught us these things, that we can learn from their scriptures, that they can intervene in our lives in a multitude of ways that we can't even imagine. And because of this practice that we're doing, because we're calling them into our merit field, in the future, as we open their books, we have these connections to these beings, and their blessings of the words in front of us will make it so that this connection ripens any karma that we have in our mind to be able to connect and understand these words. Because of this invocation, this supplication that we're making to these holy beings, we're connecting to them in a way that will allow us to understand their words now and in the future in a more complete way. We should always continue to make supplication to these great scholars, to the merit field, the great holders of all of the different tenet systems, the great holders of the Tantrayana teachings, so that we can then eventually, when we read them, connect with them and realize exactly what these great beings have realized. These are our role models. These aren't heroes who've achieved a state that we can't achieve. These aren't gods that we worship. We worship them because we know that we can achieve exactly what they have. So we're worshiping the realizations. We're worshiping the paths that they have within their minds, because these are the things that we rely upon. These are our sources of refuge for us to be able to be protected from what? The fears of cyclic existence. And for a bodhisattva, what? The fears of the obstructions to omniscience that keep him or her from being the most reliable guide in the universe to all sentient beings. So this is what our goal is, to be able to really achieve our fullest potential, which is complete Buddhahood. And when we do that, we help everyone in the universe at that moment more than we've ever helped anyone before. any one person before. When we become a Buddha, that moment when we cross from the 10th Bodhisattva ground to the state of the resultant state of Buddhahood, at that moment when that occurs, we help everyone in the universe more than we've ever helped a single being. Think about that. Think about helping a single being, how much work we've done at times. A mother, think about it, how much you've done for your children. Think about that effort you put in, and think about the moment you become a Buddha, you help everyone in the universe more than you've ever helped one being. That's so powerful. So now that we have all sentient beings assembled here, sentient beings are any being who haven't crossed the 10 Bodhisattva ground. Any being who still has among the afflictive obstructions or obstructions to omniscience is a sentient being. Anyone who has removed the afflictive obstructions and the obstructions to omniscience is a Buddha. So we have all beings and potential beings in the universe here with us right now. And now we're all together recite the Heart Sutra. Imagine that we are transported in looking at our merit field to Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain. And imagine that we're there with Buddha Shakyamuni and Chenrezig and Shariputra, and we're watching this incredible blessing take place, which is the definitive teaching that the Buddha came to this world to give, sat for 49 days and held back this information because it was going to be so difficult for us to understand, and knew that it would take just an incredible amount of merit, an incredible amount of studies and energy and understanding and wisdom arisen from hearing, analysis, and meditation to understand this nectar presented in the second turning of the wheel of Dharma. So the Buddha first taught something that was not quite as heavy in terms of the philosophical view that's presented at the first turning of the wheel of Dharma when the Four Noble Truths were taught. But the second turning of the wheel of Dharma is where the Buddha gave the definitive teaching, the teaching on ultimate truth that teaches us that all phenomena are empty of inherent existence, that there's nothing that can be found established by way of its own character. There's nothing that can be found right within the object that establishes it from its own side as this or that. There's nothing from my side that I can find within my aggregates or outside my aggregates, within my parts or outside my parts, within my mental consciousness or outside my mental consciousness, within my physical parts or outside my physical parts, that is findable, that stands on its own, that is Jeff, an inherently existent person that's findable when subjected to ultimate analysis. And the Heart Sutra came to show us that when we subject all phenomena to ultimate analysis, and we try to find whether phenomena can be found within their parts or outside of their parts, we find that we cannot find this thing that we're seeking called inherent existence. And when we find the non-finding of inherent existence, we found the object of negation. And when we realize the object of negation, we realize emptiness. And the object of negation is inherent existence. Where is it that we think inherent existence is? Within the basis of designation. There's a designated object that we say, hey, that's this. And there's a basis of designation that we throw our label onto. And we think within that basis of designation, right inside of its parts, right in there somewhere within the basis of designation, there's an inherently existent referent of that label I just made. There's something over there from its side that inherently exists and stands on its own that is what I'm saying it is, subjectively. But when I subject everything, including myself, to that ultimate analysis, and I see whether myself or an object outside of myself, like a chair, can stand on its own from its own side without a designating consciousness to bring it into being, I will find as I move closer to the object, whether it's myself, whether it's another person, or it's phenomena other than person, as I move closer to that object, I will not be able to find this inherently existent self of person or phenomena that I adhere to even through my experience of sense perception as being true. what I'm experiencing at all times as being true from my sense perspective, and then what I think about it as true is incorrect. And everything that I'm responding to, myself and everything else, is concealing the truth about it in terms of my perspective. It's concealing, because of the way I'm experiencing things to inherently exist, it's concealing this fact that they don't. So everything around me is being concealed by my perception in a way that it's concealing its actual final status, which is a dependent origination that lacks inherent existence. Emptiness is short for empty of independent existence. Why doesn't it have independent existence? A lot of folks will tell you that the Prasangika view is saying it doesn't have independent existence because it has causes and conditions. But what you need to understand is that the causes and conditions that bring it into being rely on a designated consciousness, a designating consciousness that is merely labeling on a basis of designation. Just a mere eye, just a mere chair, designated by a thought, independence upon a basis of designation. Now, does that basis of designation have anything to do with the label? Prasangika says not really, no. Conventional world who sees everything mistaken can agree upon things. Mistakenly agree, and that makes it a chair. But it's a mistaken agreement, even conventionally, because the object has nothing that we all agree upon it having from its own side. So this agreement we're making is we just all agree from our own minds. We agree upon a concealed truth. We agree upon a mistaken truth. We agree on a mistaken mode of subsistence, existence of things. And this is what's so hard to understand about conventional truth. It exists, but it's mistaken. So we're seeing something in a way that it doesn't exist at all. We're seeing something that exists from its own side. That thing doesn't exist. So when we say there's no chair that exists from its own side, but we think it's over there, existing from its own side, separate from the designating consciousness. It's right over there. I'm looking at it. It's definitely separate from me. Separate from this designating, I keep looking at it. There it is over there again. Totally feels like it's separate from my designating consciousness. It feels like it. And you would agree if you walked in the room, it's separate from your designating consciousness too. And we would agree it's a chair, but we'd both be mistaken because we've never seen a chair. We've never even seen a whole chair that we call a chair. We're relying upon something other than, even in a conventional way. If you say, okay, there's a chair over there, and it's a chair, it's got all these parts, it's got all these atoms. We've never seen the inside of the wood. That's the chair. It's a wood chair over there. We've never seen, I don't even see the front of the chair right now. So I'm saying chair, and I'm getting to chair with an object that isn't even chair. It's part of chair. Is the top of the table the table? If I remove the legs, is it a table? But then I can just look at the top of a table and I'm so sure it's a table because I label it that way. I'm getting to objects all of the time and believing I'm actually perceiving them in a full way. But I'm making up the whole thing. But there's external phenomena that all of our imprints collectively are putting out there, and our sphere, our human folk sphere of consciousness that we've been thrown into by a projecting karma before we died. Before we died in our last life, we had some kind of projecting karma. We got lucky and got a human rebirth. Not lucky. We planted seeds before. It's not luck. I get it. It's dependent origination. But, we're about to die. And we had some kind of projecting karma thought that gave us this basis. So we all are here looking at the people on the screen and on the apps, and we're all here agreeing that this is all as real as it can be. But my dog disagrees with you about what that is over there. My dog doesn't agree. And we're both, my dog's right in my dog's world. I'm right in my world, but we're all mistaken, because that shoe over there isn't a toy or a shoe, because it can't be a toy and a shoe. It has to just be subjective. It has to just be atoms and parts. As soon as you say atoms, you're in trouble. Because when you go to find ultimate analysis of an atom, you won't find it. You won't find partless things. You'll find everything with 6 coordinates, as Vasubandhu says, the 20 stanzas. Everything has north, south, east, west, and up and down. You'll never find anything without a part. So it's just really amazing that we go throughout our day. We adhere to everything as if we're sane. And really, like the Buddha says, recognize that you're ill. Seek out a remedy. Find out what's the cause of your illness. Seek out a remedy. And then get cured. Recognize, though, that you're ill. If your way of looking at things doesn't tally with reality, that's what you usually say about crazy people. A schizophrenic person doesn't tally with reality. They hear things that aren't there. Well, we see things that aren't there. Everything we see has an aspect to it that isn't there. When we start to realize that, then we see we need a doctor. Because we're seeing things. We're seeing things. We're seeing inherent existences. Doctor, help. I'm seeing inherent existences. I'm seeing something that doesn't tally with reality. Because when I subject these things to ultimate analysis, nothing I think is findable. I say this thing's there, but the yogi can't find it. The Buddha can't find it. And then when I start to even clumsily apply the 7-point analysis of the chariot, or the 4 essentials, or the diamond slivers, or things aren't arisen, from self, other, both, or causelessly. If I, start to apply these kinds of logic, I can even see that I need a doctor. Because the way that I'm thinking and the way that I'm seeing doesn't tally with reality. So the Buddha is the doctor who prescribes the medicine. And what's so beautiful about the Buddha, because of being the most reliable guide in the universe, only prescribes exactly the medicine that we need. Doesn't give us the wrong med, and then we say, oh, there's all these side effects, and then tries another one, and then tries another one. The Buddha actually has the medication that's personally catered to us, and because of being omniscient, knows exactly what that is going to need to be. There won't be a trial and error kind of need. It'll feel like maybe you're doing trials and errors, but it will have been a master plan to get you to the state of perfection. Because the Buddhas work in this kind of sneaky way, because Buddhas can't change karma, and Buddhas operate under karma. Not contaminated karma, only happy karma. But the Buddhas can't not help. The Buddhas spontaneously throw bodies to help. But the Buddha can't just spontaneously throw a body if the condition isn't there for helping. The moon can't reflect if the water is not there to make it reflect off of. If a sentient being doesn't have the karma, doesn't have the kind of condition within his or her mind to meet with a specific Buddha that's enlightened, the Buddha can't just change your karma. But a Buddha, there's a Buddha for every moment. This is the weird part. Hang in there with me now. Every moment we're having isn't happening because of even the same life karmas. Okay? So we've connected with beings. During those moments, we created karmas. Some of them are Buddhas now. Some of them were around. Some of them were our mother. We were their mother. We have connections. During that moment of life, a million lives ago, we were a jerk. And then all of a sudden, we have something negative that we experience. During that during that time that created the fruition in our life now, we had some connections to beings. So when we're experiencing things that are ripenings of previous karmas, we're experiencing a really specific kind of karmic experience that's connected to that time. So not every being in the universe was connected to us at that time when we created that karma. So the Buddhas can only, if there's some sort of connection at this moment right now that a particular Buddha has, of course, all sentient beings have been our mother. I understand that. But they weren't in the moment. There was one that was our mother in that moment when the karmas were being created. So when you start to look at this kind of puzzle, and this is just like a conventional way to kind of describe it, to get you to understand the vastness of what's going on, this complicated puzzle. Why don't the Buddhas just come and help me then right now? All of them. If there's countless Buddhas, they got, and they can do countless bodies. I should be able to be healed by tomorrow. Surround me, just, tell me everything, like every moment of my mind, tell me exactly what it is I need to ripen. And, every 64th of a second, they should be intervening, and like, they should just all be here right now, not even let me leave the room. But there has to be that connection from my side and their side. And I dummied it down. I mean, I said it in a way that can kind of like make you start to see the connections in all these different lives and why everything just can't happen all at once. It's only happening as it's unraveling through dependent origination. We're having ripening of karmas that are happening from previously. And these ripening of karmas during that time period, our minds are connected to things that they were connected to, because they're experiencing this kind of ripening of a period. So this is how intricate karma is when we think about it. When we think about, what is it going to take to unravel this mess? We see that it's such a complicated mess within our mind to unravel that it can't just take a simple solution. And that's why we spend all the time studying. That's why we get on a meditation cushion and engage in analytical meditation, engage in fixed meditation, to try to get to a place where we can unravel this complicated problem. So the Heart Sutra, the second turning of the wheel of Dharma, the Buddha came to say, hey, like knock, knock. By the way, you're mentally ill. And I know I told you before a bunch of stuff that made you feel like you were, had problems, but you really, really are looking at everything incorrectly. Not only are you looking at yourself, a person, incorrectly, like I told you at the first turning, and made you feel a little comfortable because I said, this stuff's out there. Don't worry. We got stuff out there. Relax. You're just adhering to the self of person wrong. There's this stuff's out there. It's truly existent. Don't worry. There's stuff that's truly existent. It's just the self of person isn't, and the self of person doesn't truly exist in the phenomena out there. You won't see it. You won't find the self of person in the stuff out there. You won't find it over here. You won't. But then the Buddha says, oh, by the way, second turning of the wheel of Dharma, everything is in the way that I kind of said about the self of person. Well, everything is this kind of made up construction. It's all just a made up construction. It's a made up construction of stuff that's out there, though. It's not just a dream. It's like a dream. It's like a dream because things appear to be real, concrete, in a way, inherently existent. Just like in a dream, everything appears real. It's just a little bit different. It's like a dream, not a dream, because this isn't a dream. It's a unconventional dream. Conventional dream, we go to sleep and we imagine we're flying and doing all this different stuff, and it doesn't tally with reality because we're not doing any of that stuff. You know, the appearance of what's happening isn't real. Well, when we wake up, we've woken up from that kind of dream, but we're now in a dream where still the way things appear to be isn't true. So what do? We find out what's true. We find out what tallies with reality. We find out what the source of our problem is. We find out that samsara comes about through self-grasping ignorance, inappropriate attention, coarse afflictions, contaminated karmas. And we find out then if contaminated karmas are the thing right before the samsara in terms of cause, then what causes those? Afflictions, coarse. What causes those? Inappropriate attention, finding things pleasant, unpleasant. Bifurcation. It says right in the Pramanavartika Karika, if you have a grasping at self, then you have grasping at other. If you have grasping at self and other, you have attachment and aversion. This bifurcation causes all your problems. As soon as you have the self, you have other. When you have self and other, you have attachment and aversion. This bifurcation causes all of our problems. The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. And then hidden within this text, I'm saying hidden now. That's what I'm now. I'm not saying implicitly anymore because it's the explicit teaching is on the emptiness of inherent existence. And we know that's a non-affirming negative. And we know that a non-affirming negative doesn't produce any other positive phenomena. A non-affirming negative merely negates the object of negation without inferring anything else. So if I say implicitly, within emptiness, there's 5 paths, then it could give somebody the wrong idea that there's an implicit understanding when you realize emptiness. There's nothing but a non-finding of inherent existence. A non-affirming negative and a positive phenomena don't sit in one realization. You realize a non-affirming negative. You realize the object of negation when you see emptiness directly. And what the emptiness you see is the same emptiness you've been meditating upon when you got an inferential valid cognition of the lack of inherent existence of all phenomena. But the direct perception is of a non-finding of inherent existence. And it doesn't infer anything else whatsoever. There's nothing else inferred. There could be something hidden, because when we look at the entity, every entity, we have conventional truth and we have ultimate truth. Well, we say concealed truth for conventional truth because it's concealing, it's mistaken, it's false, it's concealing the ultimate nature. But the ultimate nature doesn't allow us to see the pot or the fish or the chair or the 5 paths. You see what I'm saying? So when you see emptiness directly, there's nothing inferred about paths to Buddhahood. It's just a non-affirming negative. When you come out of it, that's a different story. But when you're realizing emptiness directly, you're only realizing the lack of inherent existence. You're not realizing non-existence of phenomena. You're realizing the non-existence of inherent existence. And every entity, Chair, Jeff, has conventional and ultimate aspect. Conventionally, Jeff is sitting right here. Jeff is merely designated on dependence upon a collection, which serves as his basis of designation. But Jeff's ultimate truth is that Jeff does not inherently exist. And both things are true right now about Jeff. Jeff is merely designated and exists subjectively in dependence upon a basis of designation, parts that serve as a basis of designation. So Jeff exists subjectively right now. Prove it. Jeff is talking to you. Jeff is talking to various people right now, and you're hearing it. you're subjectively hearing Jeff and saying subjectively, that's Jeff over there. That's enough, Nagarjuna says, for Jeff to exist. But like at the same time, you have a problem because you're seeing Jeff as inherently existent. And that conventional truth that you're talking about is concealing something, is mistaken. It's concealing the ultimate nature that I have, and that's empty of inherent existence. And if I wasn't empty of inherent existence, I couldn't become a Buddha because I'd be stuck with the Jeff that Jeff's got now, which is not a Buddha. But because I have this feature of the lack of inherent existence, and I have Jeff, Jeff can become a Buddha. The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge that has hidden within it the 5 paths of accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, and no more learning. This is the conclusion that I've made. I'm sure it's very debatable and people go round and round and round about stuff, but this is a conclusion that I've made in reading some commentaries lately, and I may change my mind, but that's the beauty of this. We're just trying to find the final truth. The Buddha said that emptiness isn't something that can even be like stated. We're doing the best we can to try to get at this non-affirming negative, to get at what this thing is that's so screwy about our minds. And I try every day to get closer to what that object of negation is, because once we realize the object of negation, we realize emptiness. Once we realize emptiness, we have a direct perception of emptiness. These coarse afflictions, these acquired things, we're on the first bodhisattva ground, and we're going to be pretty happy moving from joy to joy to joy. And we have a chance in this life to get a taste of this. We have a chance in this life to get shamatha. We have a chance in this life to have an inferential valid cognition of emptiness, a union of calm abiding and special insight. If we get shamatha and we analyze phenomena well enough with our analytical meditation, we have a chance in this life to do that. And then we can have a yogic direct perception of emptiness. If we put in the work, that's all that's missing. It's the work. The Sutra of the Heart of Transcendent Knowledge. Thus have I heard once the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha at Vulture Peak Mountain, together with a great gathering of the Sangha monks, great gathering of the Sangha Bodhisattvas at that time. The Blessed One entered the samadhi that expresses the Dharma called profound illumination. At the same time, Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, while practicing the profound Prajnaparamita, saw in this way, he saw the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature. Then through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, how should a son or daughter of noble family train who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita? Addressed in this way, Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, said to Venerable Shariputra, O Shariputra, a son or daughter of noble family who wishes to practice the profound Prajnaparamita should see in this way. Seeing the 5 skandhas to be empty of nature, form is emptiness, emptiness also is form, emptiness is no other than form, form is no other than emptiness. Same way, feeling, perception, formation, and consciousness are emptiness. Thus, Shariputra, all dharmas are emptiness. There are no characteristics. There is no birth and no cessation. There is no impurity, no purity. There is no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no perception, no formation, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no touch, no dharmas, no eye dhatu, no mind dhatu, no dhatu of dharmas, no mind conscious dhatu, no ignorance, no end of ignorance, up to no old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, no attainment, no end of ignorance up to old age and death, no end of old age and death, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no cessation of suffering, no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since the Bodhisattvas have no attainment, they abide by means of Prajnaparamita. Since there is no obscuration of mind, there is no fear. They transcend falsity and attain complete nirvana. All the Buddhas of the 3 times by means of Prajnaparamita fully awaken to unsurpassable, true, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the great mantra Prajnaparamita, the mantra of great insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequal mantra, mantra that calms all suffering, should be known as truth, since there is no deception. The Prajnaparamita mantra is said in this way: Teata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasangate Bodhi Soha. Thus Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound Prajnaparamita. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi. Praise Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, saying, Good, good, O son of noble family, thus it is, O son of noble family, thus it is. One should practice profound Prajnaparamita just as you have taught, and all the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra and Noble Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, that whole assembly in the world with its gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One. Kala jubene jo damba nengushe du junga yi du do jendru baba lama yi bushinzi nesung kandro sa la shat zelo agazamata Agasamara Jishana Samara Betia, Onkati Kati, Paragati, Prasangati, Buddhi Soa, Papa Conchisanji Gai, Demidoji, Lubadoji, Mebadoji, Shiva Doji, Dragi Baji, Metabishi Tanji, then Gori Soha, Kirin Jojaji, Shiwada, Mitun, Bejan, Andra Wadan, Tambaja, Jim Bunzun, Georgi, Daji Dejan, then Dade Le Show. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. Holy Lamas, high, wrap the sky of your Dharma bodies in massive clouds of knowledge and love, and let them pour upon the earth of your disciples as we are ready a shower of rain, the teachings deep and wide. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Sanjay Chodan Zoji Jonan La, Janju Bada Dani Jazuchi, Dagi Jinji Be Zonanji, Drola Benches, Sanjay Jubasho, Sanjay Chodan Zoji Jonan La, Janju Bada Dani Jazuchi, Dagi Jushi, Jipe Zonanji, Drola Benches, Sanjay Jubasho. Sanjay Jodan Zoji Jonan La, Janju Bada Dani Jazuchi, Dagi Jushi, Jipe Zonanji, Drola Benches, Sanjay Jubasho. Okay, so we don't have much time left. Surprise. And that's okay, though. I fulfilled my wishes for the most part this evening. But so the source of all my good, we know, is such an incredible text. I would like to just read through it and then just kind of hone in on the medium scope for maybe 5 minutes or so. I have a reading from the fifth Dalai Lama I'd like to share with you. It's quite short, and then we'll dedicate and move on. I just like to introduce you to as many different texts as I possibly can. I really love this beautiful adornment of Mount Meru written by Donald Lopez on the tenet system, so I wanted to share that with you tonight. And another text that I find to be wonderful, and they all look the same, so you have to look at the title, is the stages of the path and the oral transmission found in the Galupa tradition. There's a lot of different Lamrim texts that you can find in here, and it's really a beautiful, beautiful text that contains incredible Lamrim commentaries. And we know, anyway, we'll just leave it at that for now. I don't want to, eat up the rest of the time. So Pabonka Rinpoche says that there's 4 categories to the source of all my good. And we've gone over this a lot, but I think it's important to kind of look at it. So first it says, how do you find a teacher? What would this teacher be like if you were to be looking for a teacher? And we know that it's so important to have a teacher who's qualified, who can bring you from the stage that you're at all the way to Buddhahood in terms of the teachings, that knows how to present it in graduated stages. So the very root of the path is the teacher, and this shows you how to find a teacher, how to take a teacher on, and how to serve him or her properly. So the first category, and that deals with the first stanza. The second category is how to train your mind once you have a teacher. And then this goes through the various stanzas from the second stanza all the way up to the 12th stanza. So those stanzas all deal with what you do. Okay, now you've got a teacher. What do? You take the essence of this life and engage in the practices of the teachings for beings of 3 capacities. And then the last is that the next deals with the 13th stanza. The third category deals with stanza 13. There's 14 stanzas in total. So the third category of Pabunka's text deals with a request so that you can attain all the favorable conditions for succeeding in the path and stop any circumstances that could be a problem. So that's stanza 13. And then stanza 14 is a prayer that in all your future lives, you're taken care of by a teacher. See, it goes back to the first stanza. In all my lives, may I never be separated from my perfect lamas. And all my lives, may I have what I figured out in the first stanza, that the source of all my good is a teacher. So the 14th stanza says a prayer that in all your lives you have a lama, and that you gain all the strength possible to reach the final end of becoming Vajradhara yourself, the realization of Vajradhara, meaning become a Buddha yourself, who can then emanate bodies and give initiations from the third eye to all sentient beings. So these are the prayers. This is a prayer of supplication that Lama Tsongkhapa wrote that says, may I, from this moment of sitting on my cushion forward, be engaged in these pathways that lead to Buddhahood and only lead to Buddhahood, if I engage in them. So The source of all my good is my kind Lama, my Lord. Bless me first to see that taking myself to him in the proper way is the very root of the path, and grant me then to serve and follow him with all my strength and reverence. That's the first category. How to find a teacher, serve a teacher, follow a teacher. What are the qualities of the teacher? We'll find all of this in the Lamrim Chama. Bless me first to realize the excellent life of leisure I found just this once is ever so hard to find and ever so valuable. Grant me then to wish and never stop to wish that I could take its essence night and day. So here we're getting into this kind of motivation setter for all of the scopes, taking the essence of all of the scopes, but this gets into the small scope section now. But you can apply this, take the essence night and day to all of the scopes. That would be taking the essence, according to Tsongkhapa, is doing whatever it takes to become a Buddha, because these are shared in small and medium scope. For Tsongkhapa are teachings that are shared in common, because it's a Mahayana teaching. It's an integrated path that leads only to Buddhahood. One vehicle at the end of the day, taking its essence night and day, would be to engage in the teachings for beings of small, medium, and great capacity. That's how I take the essence. My body and the life in it are fleeting as the bubbles in the sea froth of a wave. Bless me first to recall that death will destroy me soon, and help me find knowledge that after I've died, the things I've done, the white or black, the bad deeds and the good deeds, what they bring to me will always follow close behind, as certain as my shadow. Bad deeds, suffering. Good deeds, happiness. Grant me then, based on this understanding, to ever be careful to stop the slightest wrong of the many wrongs we do and try to carry out instead each and every good that we may. That concludes the small scope section. Then the medium scope says to bless me to perceive all that's wrong with the seemingly good things of this life. I can never get enough of them. They are not to be trusted. They are the door to every pain I have. Grant me then to strive instead for the happiness of freedom. Grant that these pure thoughts may lead me to be watchful and to recall what I should be doing. Grant me to give the greatest cares, to make the vows of morality the essence of my practice. They are the root of Buddha's teachings. And then connected to that particular stanza, we see this, and I really wanted to read this, and then we'll probably just end the teaching here. This is from the fifth Dalai Lama's spoken words of Manjushri. Fifth Dalai Lama, incredible Lamrim teacher. So this is what should be thinking about every single day. As long as your mind carries virtuous and non-virtuous karmas, on your deathbed, the sinful or virtuous thoughts to which you have been most accustomed in your life will arise. So what you know your mind. What is that? What are those thoughts? Are they thoughts, may I become a Buddha day and night for the sake of sentient beings and cherish others more than myself? Are they those? Is that what you think about mostly? If it is, then you're good. Those that occur when external breathing about to cease, those that occur when external breathing is about to cease are the coarse thoughts at death. The subtle mind of death occurs when external breathing has ceased, but internal breathing has not. At the time of the coarse mind of death, you naturally have the kinds of thoughts that over the past have become most familiar to you. Non-virtuous ones like attachment to friends and aversion to your enemies, or virtuous ones like mindfulness of the three jewels. These are your choices. What is your mind like? Mindfulness of the three jewels or attachment to friends and aversion to enemies? What is your mind like? And some whose minds are unclear due to illness, a friend can help kindle good thoughts by relating an assortment of edifying tales. When, for example, sins and virtues carry equal weight, it's uncertain which will ripen at death. So, okay, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good, I'm pretty bad. Well, throw some dice then, and you could be ready for an eon of suffering. Hope your gambling is good. Hope you're a good gambler. The house usually wins, though. Most beings are involved in the ignoble. Therefore, most ordinary beings go to the lower realms. That's usually the house sending you to the lower realms, according to Aryadeva. Because the house usually wins. The lower realms usually win in the minds of ordinary beings, meaning. It says, but those to which you have become most accustomed are going to prevail. Virtuous thoughts may arise in very sinful people at death, allowing them to be reborn in a fortunate realm, and sinful thoughts may occur to people who have done much good, triggering a rebirth in an unfortunate realm. This is an important point to think about. even if you've done good. And that's the problem with samsara. Lack of freedom is misery. If you haven't put the right solid thing in your mind, the solid stuff of emptiness and bodhicitta, throw some dice. However, since it's possible to know, however, here's the good news. Since it is possible to know your mind, you can feel glad or remorseful in relation to what you recall having done in the past. So you know your mind. So chef's choice. How do you want to feel? You know your mind. Sinful people who do not know right from wrong will inevitably have the kind of immoral thoughts of which they have had a habit in the life. Despite this, having someone recite to them the Tathagata's names in special dharanis can help them avoid a rebirth in an unfortunate realm. While the subtle mind of death is manifest, neither virtuous nor non-virtuous perceptions occur, for thoughts at that time are ethically neutral, though. The virtuous generally experience few death throes, as if in a dream. They see beautiful forms and have the impression of moving from darkness into light. It's the opposite for the non-virtuous. When both the virtuous and the non-virtuous are about to die, the thought occurs that they will die, and they feel very attached to their body. As a result, their consciousness leaves their body, and as the needle of a scale tips, they are immediately born in the intermediate state, with a body shaped like that of their future life. The color of an intermediate state being born to be born in hell is that of a burnt log. For the intermediate state of an animal, it's smoke colored. For the intermediate state of a hungry ghost birth, it's the color of water. For the intermediate state of a god or a human, it's the color of gold. For the intermediate state of a form realm birth, it's white. In the intermediate state for a god rebirth, you ascend from a human rebirth, you move forward, and in the intermediate state for the rebirth in an unfortunate realm, you descend. After up to 49 days, you see your future parents coupling as if in an illusion. Compelled by attachment and aversion, you then enter and conceived. A rebirth in a hell can be triggered, for example, by seeing an animal and wanting to slaughter it. You are to meditate on the way you wander in cyclic existence, which resembles a firebrand wheel until renunciation appears in you. Just keeps going like this, just going. From beginningless time, your mind has never been separated. So here's a stanza between sections the fifth Dalai Lama wrote. 4 stanzas and then we'll end. From beginningless time, your mind has never, for an instant, been separated from its companions, the afflictions, which will follow in its wake and plunge you into samsara's ocean with no end. Against your will, the winds of karmas churn it well into waves of the 3 kinds of utter misery. Always reflect on samsara like a firebrand wheel and your afflictions, enemies most dire. If you pride yourself on being a hero who has killed an enemy in this life, now the time has come to tame the afflictions, your enemies of all time. This is the thing we have to understand. This self-grasping ignorance, our afflictions, these are the enemies of all time. Common enemy, if we slaughter this enemy, it never comes back. We can chase a normal enemy out, they'll come back. When we chase this enemy of our afflictions out, as Shantideva says, it can never return. And that's where the fifth Dalai Lama is getting this from. Shantideva's Bodhicitta Avatar. It says that unlike common enemies who can come back after they reassemble their forces, once we eradicate the enemy of the self-cherishing attitude, self-grasping ignorance, it'll never come back to harm us. It will never, ever come back to bring us the 3 kinds of misery. Now that you have successfully attained of life with leisure and opportunity and understand the key points of the 3 higher trainings, if you do not conquer the army of suffering's origins, I suspect you will continue trudging wearily on the plane of birth and death. I suspect. Chef's choice. So this is what's so empowering. We deserve better. Tell yourself, I deserve better than I've been settling for, and do something about it. And the process to the best will make you feel better. Even though the goal isn't feeling better in this life, If you engage in this process to feel better forever, you will, as a byproduct, feel better in this life because your mind will have more ease. Your mind will be more realistic. Your mind will be able to take a moment. And as Shanti Deva says, when you're about to, normally you would react in a way that's going to cause you distress, grabbing at something or punching something, aversion or attachment. You'll be able to take a space and remain like a log, and then be able to critically analyze how I should behave in this moment. Apply patience if there's an anger about to happen. Apply skillful means, intelligence, and think about how can I truly work within this situation and not just react out of ignorance. How can I really be the most helpful? If you can remain like a log instead of just going, ah! I need help. Okay, let me help you. I'll do this and da. I need help. Remain like a log. What's the best help? We're already going to feel better. If we're able to just do that, think about it. It even feels like a relief saying it. Like you have this stuff all coming at you. If your mind could just go to the parking lot, as a good friend of mine says, for a moment, just remain, just for a moment, say, okay, this appears to be inherently existent. And this thing that's occurring is occurring, even though it's not occurring the way I think it's occurring. But this thing that I don't like that's occurring, I'm making. I've created this from a previous karma. And actually, it's my fault that this person who's yelling at me is going to probably have a lower realm rebirth, because I created a karma that's making them have no choice but to be the object of their anger. So as soon as my magnet attracts them, I've caused them in a way, Shanti Deva says. How could I be so arrogant to yell at them when I'm causing them to experience a future ripening of suffering? I'm the magnet that drew them, my karma and afflictions. Now they're yelling. One moment of anger destroys incredible amounts of virtue. That person who's yelling at me, I've, in a way, created their future suffering, yet I want to yell back at them. When they're just, every word that's coming out of their mouth is because of something I created, and all of those words are going to cause that being to suffer so immensely in the future. Yet I want to hurt them even more in this moment than they're going to be hurt in the future. And it's all my fault. It's my fault no matter what at the end of the day, because it's subjective. Even if a bodhisattva's arm is chopped off, they don't feel bad. A high bodhisattva who's realized emptiness, they don't feel bad. It's subjective. Everything, our whole experience, all of our reactions. Okay. Let's end this class. Let me find my papers. This is what my Chenrezig prayer book looks like now. This is my Chenrezig Center prayer book that now is contained within a folder that says class prayers. I finally got a million folders because everything I have is falling apart or is a scattered piece of paper somewhere in my life, all over, like, some sort of mad scientist on a mission. Or if you've ever seen Beautiful Mind, where he has all these pictures on a wall with strings attached that connect this thought to that thought. And anyway, those who've seen the movie can appreciate what I'm talking about. It used to be one of my favorite movies. So, but we're all operating in a way. We think, oh, wow, he was making that whole world up. When we see that movie, he thought he was a spy. He thought he was this, not even sure what he was at the end. But but you think, wow, this poor fellow has just been making up a reality his whole time. No. You got to take that mirror and say, this poor fellow has been making up a reality that's incorrect since beginningless time, and has really, because of it, had a disturbed mind, hasn't felt well, has never felt well. Since beginningless time, I've never felt well. Never felt quite right. I've had moments where I could have fleeting times where there could be brief interludes, maybe in a form or formless realm, where I'm just attached to some sort of meditation and there isn't the kind of suffering of change, or even maybe not the suffering of suffering. But if I'm in samsara, I'm just waiting to experience suffering of suffering and suffering of change. And that lack of freedom is misery. The fundamental ground is scented with incense and strewn with flowers, adorned with Mount Meru, the four continents, the sun, and the moon. I imagine this is a Buddha land and offer it. May all sentient beings enjoy this pure realm. I dedicate whatever virtue I've collected for the benefit of the teachings and of all sentient beings, in particular for the essential teachings of Venerable Losang to shine forever. I send forth this jeweled mandala to you, precious Guru. Any mistakes that I've made, may they be purified by the mantra of Vajrasattva. Om benza sata samaya mena bulaya benza sata zeno vajija dida me vaza dugaya me vaza bugaya me va anuragta me vaza vazini me braja sava kama sucha me kitem triyam kurum ha bhagavan zava data gata benza me moka benza bava ma samaya sava ve. May we be protected by Paul Lama. Jorama 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 Tinjakalar Chimorama Chidachi Tinjo Rulu Hongjo. I dedicate all this virtue to emulate the knowledge of the hero Manjushri, and likewise Samantabhadra as well. With whatever dedication is praised as supreme by all the conquerors who traverse the three times, I also dedicate all my roots of virtue for the sake of auspicious deeds. Long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Lord Chenrezig in our world, the wish-fulfilling jewel, who I think looks great. I think he's doing just great. And I was so happy to see him. And he looked as beautiful and as radiant as I've ever seen, and looked like, wow, this being can just stay in our world. And I make these prayers, may this being stay in our world just for as long as possible and continue to be in our world in the form of Chenrezig, emanating these bodies, just to continue to help us until there's no more being that isn't called the Buddha. Please, Your Holiness, stay with us. And I just saw his beautiful, radiant face and feel so fortunate he's still in our world, and that any kind of ideas that I see of, oh, he looks old, or any ideas that I see, oh, he doesn't walk so well, are all my karmic obscurations, because Chenrezig Buddha doesn't have any problems. I have the problems. Everything's subjective. I'm merely designating all of this, and my karma is forcing upon me this predicament where I'm not where the Buddha is abiding in the Sambhogakaya with all the enjoyment parts, where the Dalai Lama is also right now. It's my karma that's seeing someone who is born as a human basis and has to experience, life the way that I see them experiencing it. It's my karma not to be able to see the Dalai Lama's enjoyment body that he has currently. That's my karma, not being able to see that. So whenever we see any of our teachers, just remember that there is not an old being with any problems that is part of that being right now, that's in a pure land teaching Arya Bodhisattvas and is abiding in his or her own Dharmakaya, the wisdom and natural Dharmakaya, and doing just fine. Having a time, have a bliss to bliss to bliss to bliss. And this is how we should think about it. And then if our teachers pass, they didn't pass. They've been the whole time they were here, there too. What passed? It's our problem that we're seeing that and not seeing that. We're seeing this and not seeing that. It's our problem. We need to tell everybody about our problem. Our teacher's still right there too, and over here too, and over there too. This is what we start to see, and this can make our minds really more realistic. Prayer for the long life of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Why am I making these prayers? So that my mind has the obstacles removed to seeing someone old, to seeing someone, oh, I wonder how much longer he'll be with us. Because when I have a clean mind, I'll see the enjoyment body. And when I have the cleanest mind, we'll work together for you. You'll work together with them for me. This is what we need to understand. Appearances aren't reality. Our appearances are mistaken. We dwell in the conventional. We dwell in the conceptual. We dwell in concepts. We dwell in construction. We construct it. We feel it's concrete. We construct things and we think that they're concrete, but we've merely constructed them out of these little tiny pieces and parts in our mind and designated them as something. Designate the Dalai Lama as the enjoyment body that you see. In that pure land surrounded by snowy mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. All powerful Avalokiteshvara Tenzin Gyatso, may you stay until samsara's end. His Holiness is still in Tibet. This is what we understand. They wanted to say in that pure land there, and some Tibetans have changed it, this prayer, and the Geshes do not like that. Like the real heavy Geshes do not like that that's been changed, because they say you don't get it. You just don't get it, do you? You don't get what a Buddha is, do you? You don't get that this is an emanation body, do you? You don't get it. You missed it. Somebody missed it. Someone's missing information and giving you wrong information. And it's usually yourself. Please stay until samsara's end. And now a prayer of supplication to Namgyo Khyentse Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, who's inseparable from Aryatara, my root teacher, and also a supplication to Geshe Lobsang Gompo Rinpoche and Jeffrey Hopkins, you know. And I can supplicate them because they never left. They know me just like they knew me before they left. They never left. I just can't see them anymore. That's my problem. When I saw them get sick, that was my problem. I didn't get to see them in their pure form or in their purer enjoyment form. The purest form is Dharmakaya. I mean, seeing an omniscient consciousness is, I mean, a Buddha could see it, but anyway. A complex yogi poses as a simple monk. Homage to Khyentse Geshe Wandak Rinpoche, our precious spiritual friend who is inseparable from Aryatara. I prostrate covering as many atoms of the earth as possible to your pure body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. I offer to you drinking water, bathing water, flowers, incense, candles, scented water, food, and music purified by Om Ah Om, Om Ah Om, Om Ah Om. The rarity of having 1 million wish-fulfilling gems is a common occurrence compared to meeting with a holy teacher like you, not like you were, like you, who placed the complete path to Buddhahood in our childlike hands. Just like Atisha, who came to Tibet with a lamp to dispel the darkness of ignorance, you, kind abbot, arrived in the West with a lineage purer than a diamond and begged us never to be satisfied with partial instructions. The teachings of the extensive deeds and profound view lineages flowed from your lips like nectar for our ears that elucidated the teachings for beings of 3 capacities. Now that sound has stopped. All composite things are impermanent. You told us that all of your teachers passed away and understood the sadness, entreating us to continue our studies. The Buddha does not wash away the negativities of beings, nor does he remove their miseries by his hands. His spiritual realizations are not transferred to them. It is by teaching the truth of suchness that beings are liberated. We are not prepared to take the difficult journey to the highest goodness of Buddhahood without your continued guidance. The sadness in our hearts would be too overwhelming. May you swiftly return to this world and take care of us in all of our lives, wherever we may be, never leaving our hearts and crowns. May all sentient beings perfectly realize renunciation, bodhicitta, and the correct view of emptiness, so they know who you really are. We're so fortunate His Holiness is here, and that we've had all of these teachers here, and that we have His Holiness just so beautiful and radiant right in our world right now, just here to guide us and still with us as Chen Rezi, and has set up all these programs and courses of Nalanda study just for us. We're so, so fortunate. We should see him as that pure being of Chen Rezi that he is, and look at him in our hearts in that way. And not say things like, oh, he looks so this or that, because that's ridiculous. If somebody saw my baby picture, they'd say, you look so much older than your baby picture. If somebody saw me when I was 30, they see me now and say, oh, Jeff really looks old now. I mean, seriously. So anyway, I just want to state this because I've heard some things recently that I don't necessarily think I don't agree with. So I would just like to present that and say that I'm so fortunate to have met with these holy lamas. And I feel that you're also fortunate too, to have met with these holy lamas. And let's keep them in our world by seeing them as pure. Thank you. See you next time. Hopefully, based on the discussion I just had, can't be so sure. Okay, I want to end this meeting. That's how do I do this? All right, take care, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
He loves it. Smells good.